and what is the meaning of the augmentation. So the presentation is outlined in this way. We will first give you the idea about what is introduction to data and analytics. Some kind of concept we will explain. Then we will jump into what is big data, because when you talk about the data analytics, basically we mean that the big data analytics. Then we will proceed towards the concept of augmented data analytics. And as you see that it is an augmentation, so augmentation we will later on speak on that, why it is augmentation. So in that context, we will explain to you what is natural language processing and then machine learning algorithms. These two concepts, one is required to understand, and then some kind of case studies we will mention in between, and finally we'll give some conclusions, what are the lessons we have learned by this presentation. Okay, let me start with that. If you look at the data and analytics, two concepts are there. What is data and what is analytics? If you look at the data in the screen, it is reflected here. In computing, we know that the data is an information. It may be numerical, but it may be text. So in that collection, as a collective sentence, we call that the data is an information that has been translated into a form that is efficient for movement or processing. And data can exist in a variety of forms as numbers or text on pieces of paper, as bits and bytes stored in electronic memory, or as facts stored in a person's mind. Second point is that if I know about this kind of data, then what is the meaning of the analytics? Analytics is basically a discovery, interpretation, and communication of meaningful patterns in the data and applying those patterns towards the effective decision making. So basically what we are trying to do, we analyze some kind of logic, some kind of communication in a meaningful way, and then that pattern we have to take towards the decision making process. Analytics is also an encompassing and multidimensional field that uses mathematics, statistics, predictive modeling, and machine learning, so on. We will come to know one by one. Now, if you look at this particular screen, we are saying that the analytics connect the people with the data they can trust to respond confidently. Each and every icon, if you see, that you have the supporting behavior of health during a global pandemic, and then governance is giving a data dashboard that can help you lead through the pandemic, and AI and IoT deployed for the crowd safety management during the COVID-19. So basically, this particular concept is giving the COVID-19 data analytics. Okay, so using the COVID-19 data to fight and contain the pandemic with advanced analytics is critical to protect the public health and save lives. Using spatial data through mobile and web applications will allow us to beat the coronavirus. So ultimately, we learned from this particular present slide that COVID-19 may be a big data, and that data analytics is important to help each and every corner of the world. So from that angle, if we further proceed, we need to know what is the concept of the data analytics. What is the data analytics? As I mentioned that it is a discovery. So we can say in that the background of the data analytics is a process of inspecting, cleansing, transforming, and modeling the data. So analytics refers to the qualitative as well as quantitative techniques, right? So analytics is needed in business to consumer applications. This is a very important concept that we are interested in data analytics, especially for promoting our business to consumer applications. So we have to know that what other applications suit for that kind of business. Then generally there are very organizations out there, they will collect the data from their customers through business, economy, and practical experiences. That data we have to repository into a repository, and then we have to utilize the actual analytics tool and interpret. Okay. So now whenever we receive the data, we generally call it as a big data. What is the big data? Big data stands for the data sets which is usually much larger and complex, okay, than the common no data sets which usually handled by RDBMS. RDBMS stands for the students, it is Relational Database Management System. There are many varieties of the database management system. Now, of course, it is called the WOOD-BMS. It is Object-Oriented Database Management System, Web-Oriented Database Management System. There are many varieties out there. So, big data can be applied to an unstructured, structured, and semi-structured data. So, these are the very 3 points to be noted, that the data can be unstructured. That means it can be any kind of pattern. It can be structured or it can be semi-structured. That means some portion of the data can be structured, some portion of the data can be unstructured. So these three type of data sets can be there, which are based on the requirements and the needs. So nowadays, big data analytics has been applied on various sectors like media, education, healthcare. Today, whatever we are applying, there is a Zoom meeting. So backbone is basically a concept of the big data analytics. And the way we are communicating with each other, it is basically natural language processing. So that means augmented data analytics is nothing but the skeleton of the Zoom or any kind of online teaching. So that is the real example I can refer that. If you look at this particular screen, that it is a big data concept is giving in the pictorial format. The 5 V's are there, which comprise this story about the big data. One we call the volume, which is a data size. Then we know that the velocity of the data, that means how what is the speed of the data to be inputted into the repository, or which way that what is the speed of the data is incoming to the repository. Then we have a variety, that means different forms of the data sources, that different sources of the data. Some data source can come from the mobile, some data source can from the different parts of the world. So then we have the veracity. Veracity is nothing but the uncertainty of the data. This is a very big concept, because initially this concept was not there. So we were satisfied with the 4 V's, but unless we know that the uncertainty, we may not be in a position to process that. So therefore, veracity is a very, very important concept. And then we have the value, that is the business value of the data. Now, as I mentioned here, if you see that the COVID-19 pandemic is an example of big data, and hence analytics play a major role here. So if you look at this screen, you see that the big data analysis techniques are well suited to tracking and controlling the spread of COVID-19 around the world. Today, what government is doing basically is sprocket usage of all the politicians and healthcare professionals, but that is not sufficient. They have to really take the root of the computer science people and science people to understand what kind of analytics technique is required to reflect to the society about the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are several big data components to this pandemic where we require artificial intelligence that can play a big role. Without this artificial intelligence, I don't think that the COVID-19 pandemic is completed. So, and this is already quoted by the James Hendler from the RPI. And you know that the data platform tracks the hospital bed capacity during COVID-19 outbreak. And this is only one part I have noted, but there are many issues are there. How many samples to be pulled, how many antibody tests has to be taken. All these things can be easily understood if I really go for the actual data analytics. Okay. So coming back to the concept of the data analytics, we should know that what are the different types of big data analytics. We know that what is big data. There are 5 B's as I discussed. Now we should know that what are the different types of big data analytics. Big data analytics, if you look at, there are 2 modes. One is predictive analysis. In this screen it is showing here. Predictive analysis is nothing but the supervised learning, where we basically rooted to the ordinary least square regression. It is a statistical method. And then logistic regression. Logistic regression, why we apply? We apply because that we need to know that the decision-making process time to time. Then we have the prescriptive analysis. In this prescriptive analysis, it works on the data set and determines what actions need to be taken. It is simply like a prescription. Yeah, you have received the data. From the data, you understand that what kind of prescription should be given to process the data. So that means process is what actions you required to take. Then you also have the descriptive analytics, diagnostic analysis, and exploratory. In the descriptive, you see, here I have written that descriptive analytics actually analyze the past and determines what actually happens and why it is happening and what is happening. It also helps to visualize the analysis in the dashboard. So whatever the dashboard design is there, it is required to know that the descriptive analysis, because some of the icons in the dashboard, it will notify that the history of the process. Then we require to know that the diagnostic analysis. Here we basically execute the current data sets, and whatever that we require, either to retrieve the data or you do some kind of analysis for decision making. All this kind of technique is done in this branch of the data analytics. That is the diagnostic analytics. Then we have the last one is the exploratory analysis. Here, this is nothing but the unsupervised learning. Maximum load of the data analytics lies into this zone. That is, here we have shown that the clustering, mixture models, latent variable models, which is nothing but the expectation maximization algorithm. Each and every algorithm is very important. I have a full detailed work on the EM algorithm, and I myself have developed the EM algorithm for various reasons. Some of the examples I'll show you, and then we have the K-means algorithm. So remember that the exploratory analysis and predictive analysis, apart from this descriptive, diagnostic, and prescriptive, they are very, very important. So now the question is that what are the technologies? We know that what is big data. We know what are the types of data analytics. Now we should know that what are the technologies involved in the big data analytics. Technology in the sense that what exactly we have to do. Technology in this case, that the data management, data mining, Hadoop. This is a very important concept. For example, that in this, that's why I have explained it. It is a big data analytics tool, which is a Java-based free software framework. Students can download the Hadoop and can trial with their data analytics experience. It helps in effective storage of huge amount of data in a storage place known as a cluster. So here there is a lot of cluster techniques they will be knowing. And if you really do that, the hardware in the computer science, you know that a lot of clusters can be there. In our earlier my BRC, a lot of clusters we used to do, and the clusters can brought back to you the cloud computing or granular computing, or there are various nature of the computing platforms will be there. Then we have the in-memory analytics. Here, basically, we try to convert the data is a long short-term memory, LSTM, or many other fractal techniques and anything. Then we have a predictive analytics and text mining. So these are the technologies involved in a big data analytics process. Okay, so when you go for the big data, so basically people know that earlier we have the lot of database management system. Even we have converted the Microsoft Access and object-oriented database management, RDBMS. So the question comes to the user that whether the big data is a database. So from that, I would like to comment on this. So that is a question I have proposed here. Is the big data a database? Obviously, big data is a database because huge amount of data when you stored in one place in the sense is maybe in the segmented format, but collectively at the user angle, it is a one place only. So big data is a database that is different and advanced from the standard database. Earlier, those who are familiar with the database handling, they must be knowing that the EF CORDS rule, there are 12 rules were there. And from that rule, we have done that a lot of data processing like online transaction processing, that is OLTP, or online analytical processing, that is called OLAP. So all these things are involved in the data analytics domain. So that means whatever we have learned past, it has not been thrown. We have taken everything and then come back into a newer technology format. So therefore, we can say that there are specific types of database known as NoSQL database. There are several types of NoSQL databases and tools available to store and process the big data. So these particular databases are optimized for data analytics. So optimization route is very, very important because any damn data you cannot submit to a dashboard. It should be filtered out. So therefore, that filter should be oriented in an optimized manner. So therefore, we can say that the NoSQL databases are optimized for data analytics using the big data such as text, images, logos, and other data formats such as XML, JSON, and so on. So now, if you look at what is the power of big data can bring very big values to our life in almost every aspect. Technologically, if you see that the big data may be that they are diverse and heterogeneous data, and it analyzed to help us make decisions. So big data technology means that thousands of data from seemingly unrelated areas can help support important decisions. One has to require to be noted that the decision process to be carried out behind the big data analysis. And this is the power of big data. Objective decisions, you may be having single objective decision. So decisions can be a portfolio in a different angle. So the power of big data is that what are the areas of applications? You see that the health and well-being policy making and public opinions, smart cities and more efficient society. And I remember that one of the student at the undergraduate level had done the project with me for developing a smart city. He had come to me for developing a smart city. So I had recommended him, smart city making may be very difficult for you. So it is better that why don't you do that the smart hospital. Now the concept of the smart hospital, I have to deliver to him. I gave that the simple 2-room. In the hospital, you will see medical wastage are dumped into the patient's room. If that the cleaner is not alerted, then automatically due to that waste, patient's condition may be aggravated. So therefore, I advised him, that student, you do one thing, you put a sensor technology, put one sensor in one basket in one room, and another sensor of that female variety or male variety we can put into the cleaner's pocket. Whenever the basket will be filled with respect to certain loaded based on the sensor, so buzzer will sound and that cleaner will alert, and it will be reflected on his part that what is the room number and where he has to go, what is the route map. So he will simply go and clean the basket. So that way he did that project, and he will not believe that that project he presented in the Geneva conference, and he got awarded. Throughout his life, his education was free because of that. And that my name as a mentor and his student name came into the Times of India. So that was my contribution to guide an undergraduate student to come back to a higher technology format. So the areas of application is very, very important. New online educational models can be prepared. Mentioned that MOO, student teacher modeling, and of course robotics and human robot interaction can be there. There may be many more things can be done on the research on this particular area. Pictorially, if you see that when we go for the big data analytics, what is the objective? What we do? If you look at here, there are many icons displayed on the screen. So we have to basically do the data mining. Before the analytics, first we have to do the mining the data. We may not be know that what is the mining in the sense the knowledge discovery. How I should know that this is an authentic data. Any damn data if I feed, if I say that some kind of leather varieties of the information I have fed you, and asking that what is the quality of fish, then what will happen? You do not know. The data is addressing to the leather, and you are asking the quality of the fish. So therefore, two different sets disjoint. So you cannot do. So basically, you require to understand what is the data mining and visualization. So big data computing and data management, then data integration, data extraction. So therefore, if you look at from the top bottom, if you see that the first data extraction from these various resources, you have to integrate the data, you have to convert into a big data mode and the data management mode, then you have to really do the data mining and visualization, and then you will go for this kind of outcome like online shopping, smart cities, health, finance and risk management, genetic farming. So all these things we are doing, and they are all catered to the private, and privacy and security has to be there, and policies also to be up to date depending on that. So this is the basic objectives of the data analytics. So you have the various resources of the system. From that you extract the data, you integrate, you do the big data computing and data management, and then finally you go for the mining and visualization. So therefore, there are research objectives are there. Every branch of the data analytics has a research mode. Big data analytics, you can do a lot of data mining and machine learning technique. Big data computing, if you do, you have a data center support for analytics. You can do a lot of technology behind this big data computing. You can develop a lot of big data theory, and where the privacy security can be there, we can develop, and a lot of sampling technique can be developed, statistical theory can be developed, and then big data science if you do, which is a fourth paradigm, and based on that we have to develop the industry 4.0, industry 5.0. Today you may not be positioned, you may not be aware that we are in the running of the industry 6.0. So therefore, in that, if you try to bring the industry up to that elevated level, we require the analytics, and therefore we call that the analytics is required for science as well as for the engineering, and that is why I mentioned here is the fourth paradigm. Okay, and if you see that the big data not only refers to the science and engineering, but of course biology. Today that virus issues is nothing but the biological data for vaccine research. It is a big data. So here I mentioned that the relation to smart cities and IoT. You can see many of these are all the cutting from the various resources, and I have shown you that the one of the cutting. So if you wanted to make a city to be smart, definitely a data analytics or data scientist is very, very important. And we sometimes call that the data engineering. Why science? Why data science? We call it as a data engineering. Okay, because ultimately technological format will be done by the engineering implementation. So here we saw that what is a big data analytics workflow. So the data extraction I showed from the various resources, integration, then computing and data management. You come to the data mining, visualization, and once you do that, then you go for the various applications like biology and genetics, chemistry, physics, government policies, social sciences, general health, logistics, finance, and business. So up to this, I know, then it is dividing into the various branches of the science and engineering discipline. So now the question, so far we understood that what is the big data and what are the technologies behind, what are the different types of big data analytics, what is the workflow. Now the concept is the actual, my title is the augmented data analytics. So here I am very much interested to give you the flavor why it is called augmentation, because prior to this meeting or prior to this presentation, there are a lot many queries I heard that what is the meaning of the augmentation. Okay. So it is an amalgamation of two concepts. One is the data analytics that so far I showed that the big data, which is a job of the data scientist, and then it is called the augmented analytics. So the data analytics and augmented analytics, these two when joined together, we call them as a augmented data analytics. Okay. So fundamental connectivity between these two is that the one is machine learning, which is a subfield of the artificial intelligence. And then second one is the natural language processing, which is very new to this particular domain. Because natural language processing is a subject in the fifth year of a 5-year integrated course on the computer science student. Even people have done a lot of research on the NLP to develop a lot of engineering applications. One of these two applications, if time permits, I will show you. Fine. So let us see what is augmented analytics. As a definition, we can say it is the use of statistical and linguistic technologies to improve the data management performance, from the data analysis to data sharing and business intelligence. It is somehow connected to the ability to transform the big data into a smaller or more usable data sets. Okay. Every time we may not be handling the complete data set, we can crunch it into a smaller mode. Then always we have to apply the machine learning to automate and to send the report to the common public in the form of a natural language. So that is why natural language processing interface is very important in case of the data analytics. If you look at the earlier what people have said, research firm Gartner coined the term augmented analytics in its 2017 hype cycle for emerging technologies report and claimed it would be the future of data analytics. Today, we are in the future because it may be taking some more 5 or 6 years, but still from today onwards, we should proceed towards that. Augmented analytics describe the process where data is automatically taken from raw data sources, scrubbed and analyzed in an unbiased manner. All these processes are very important in the computer science. How to do the scrubbing of the data, how to analyze that in an unbiased manner, why not biased manner, and communicate it in a report using the natural language processing. Natural language means the humans understanding. That means English, if we are here, or if our mother tongue is Bengali, in the form of Bengali, or in the national language like Hindi, or in the case of South, it is a Tamil. So the different regional languages can be retrieved your data. So therefore, we know that the continuing that we can say that we understood that the augmented analysis means machine learning technique and then natural language processing. So we can say that this kind of technique looks for the patterns in the data or discovers other valuable insights without the involvement of the data scientist. So that means we can say these analyses can then be shared with the human team members. So everybody, any XYZ person can understand what is going on. Okay, today if you use your mobile, You type something, you will get that. If you try to do the online shopping, you are loading the Amazon.com, or you are loading some Flipkart and all these things. But what backbone is going, we are not interested. We are only interested to get the result at my doorstep. That's all. So since the reporting is easy to understand for non-technical people, individuals in an organization don't need to wait for an intermediary tech professional to interpret what the machine saw in the raw data. Again, information on what is the information. If you see that the textual matter, I need not to explain here. Everything is visible on the screen. Augmented analytics democratizes data and enables all business, no matter their size. Augmented analytics has made it easier for all business to become data. So whatever the today's procedures are there, please remember it is an augmented data analytics only, because we are requiring the human to interface. Okay. So human interaction with the computer, HCI basically we call human computer interface, is nothing but the augmentation. However, data scientists will still be in high demand even when more organizations adopt the augmented analytics. Continuing in that, as the name suggests, so therefore we require artificial intelligence knowledge. So one has to take the branch of the artificial intelligence, the computer science, so that in future they may be expecting to get a job on the augmented analytics, and there are huge jobs in the country is coming on the augmented analytics. Then preparation, freeing up time for the data scientists to take on more strategic and creative tasks, such as asking better business questions, finding innovative data sources, and strategically interpreting the insights. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits. One or 2 points I can mention here. Augmented analytics simplifies the data analysis making. It is easier to get to actionable insights. And since machines can efficiently analyze myriad data sources and combinations, augmented analytics allows for more in-depth data analysis. This is very important. And you know that the IT and data professionals are freed up to focus on strategic matters and special projects. More individuals involved in organization, they become data focused and empowered by the data, since it becomes a part of their everyday activity. Whatever we do today our life, it is nothing but the data only, and different time different data comes into picture. So therefore, to be an expert of the augmented data analytics, we need to know either machine learning and as well as the natural language processing. So some people may be very expert in the machine learning, and some people may be expert in the NLP, and those who are expert in both branches of this augmented data analytics, they may be the system analysts we call. Okay, so machine learning fits within the data science, and it uses various techniques such as regression and supervised clustering, so on. And NLP is basically subfield of the linguistics. Okay, computer science, information engineering, and artificial intelligence itself concerned with the interactions between computers and humans. You know that there is a technique called human-computer interface, and there is also a technique called brain-computer interface. We can do the brain metamorphosis system. If you do the brain metamorphosis, two brains can communicate to each other like a Bluetooth. This particular topic I had presented in somewhere in the last year in the Villa Engineering College, where we had discussed that the two brains can be communicated like a Bluetooth, because brains are nothing but the computers in the human and CPU of the human. So therefore, they can be communicated. Two laptops, if they communicated with a Bluetooth, why not two brains? So that concept I adopted and developed in my laptop and interpreted. You will see that is a plenty of things can be done. Plenty of what we call the telepathy is nothing but a brain-computer interface, or brain-to-brain, BCI, basically BBI you call, brain-to-brain interface. And this brain-to-brain interface is easier to know than cognitive task. If you know that the cognitive task, then before implementing, before applying a person to a certain job, if you understand his brain, what is going on inside, then definitely you will be 100% safe, or you will be 100% productive that, yes, that fellow will go and finish that job. If he is disturbed, even if you impose, he may not be in a position to fulfill that job. So therefore, data analytics will bring back to this concept that brain-to-brain interface, BBI, so that two brains can be together, work way to, there may be more brain clusters can be worked, which will really do a good job. And that in the future it is coming. So let us see that what is the natural language processing. Okay, this part we will explain to you. So NLP is a branch of computer science focused to developing the systems. We understood to understand the computational linguistics. If you look at the computational linguistics, some part, those who are very much involved in the fuzzy logic and fuzzy systems, they may be aware that we try to do that the computational linguistics in the form of the so many linguistics words coined by Lopsijade, such as the very low or very low. So this kind of word we try to concept by using the linguistics. But here computational linguistics are beyond that. Okay, we will see that what is there. Natural language processing is a form of AI that always I am mentioning from time to time. It is easy to understand and start using. It can also do a lot to help propel your business forward. So please remember that NLP, if you be an expert, business can be really elevated to a different angle. Okay, what is NLP? Continuing that, is a natural languages basically. Natural language, you understand that the various kind of thing, English, Mandarin, French, and so on. Okay, but it's definitely not the Java, C++, because this is also a language, but this is a computational language or computer language, but this language is already coined by the human. So these are the natural languages. Ultimate goal is what? Ultimate goal is the natural human to computer communication. So that only we talk that NLP is required to develop to have an interface between human and computer. Today also we are just typing on the keyboard of the laptop, and then computer understand. So this is basically natural language. A backbone of the architecture of the operating system is understanding that the one side human language, another side computer language, there is machine language. So therefore already NLP is built in. So there is a subfield of artificial intelligence, but very interdisciplinary. That means so many things are involved here. You see that the computer science, human computer interaction, linguistics, cognitive psychology, speech signal processing, and so on. So therefore few examples are here: spell check, autocomplete, voice text messaging, spam filters, related keywords on search engines, Siri, Alexa, or Google Assistant. They are the example of the NLP. So here, please note that where NLP outperforms humans is in the amount of language and data it's able to process. So we can call that our Shakuntala Devi was NLP as well as the data scientist or machine language, whatever. So she was basically augmented data analyst, because one side she was very much expert on computing, and one side she was very much receiving in the form of a human language, because after all she was a human only. So this is a very real example I gave you, that Shakuntala Devi was nothing but the augmented data analyst, but concept was not earlier that, so we do not find that issue that time, but now we can think of. If you look at that, I am showing some of the results that so this is an India coronavirus map and case count. It is an updated of the June 8th. Total cases we already know with respect to 8th June. That means up to yesterday, up to this time, I was continuously sitting on the dashboard of the WHO to upload that, and so we got the data. So this is the profile. So now this is a very big data. Now to an user, if I show this graph, who does not aware of this kind of interpretation, I may not be in a position to convince him. So therefore, what we need to know, we have to explain everything in the natural language, like what is a map, why it is increasing, which month it is there. So all these interpretation should be in the form of a natural. So this is a real scenario for explaining that everything what we do for big data handling and interpret, it is basically augmented data analytics. Okay, so this is an example that the India map, where the map is produced. Map is basically how produced. GIS software you have to put, and GIS software that you have to put the landscape and all these things to understand the various kind of count or histories, and then particular place. So computer will understand. That means human will feed into that. If I have an augmented data analytics, if I feed that, okay, you give me the value of the Maharashtra total count, it will give me. So how the computer will understand? Because backbone is the machine learning, and then it is interpretation of the human language. So it is again, I am showing that the coronavirus dashboard, where it is showing that this dashboard is designed as augmented data analytics. You are confirmed. You are simply now at the user point, you are clicking and get the result. but the designer is required to carry out this kind of NLP as well as data analysis. So here in the Google, if you see, have you ever heard use in the Google? If you see that is the Google, we type and get the result. The status library is 305 feet tall and all these things we are getting. So our idea is that to develop an intelligent systems that can interact with human beings as like a human beings. And you see again that in the Google we type and we get the result. So the everything whatever coming from the Google is nothing but a augmented data analytics, but not in the structured format. It is an unstructured format because Google cannot compute that numerical figure. Okay, it can only understand that the textual. It is basically search engine. So any kind of search engine is also a one kind of augmented data analytics. So how does NLP work? What are the things if somebody has to design the NLP software? What are the things he has to be noted? One is morphology. Morphology is nothing but what is a word. If I type that there is something, so we have to understand what is that the word. Say for example, I understand two houses, but I do not understand this part. But the other part of the word who understands this language, he understands. So this morphology is nothing but the variation of the word across the globe. Then lexicography. This is a very, very important concept in the computer science. Lexical analyzer. Earlier you used to know that the lexical analyzer, now it is called the lexicography. Lexicography says that what does each word mean? I am showing here that the fish and guitar, and mentioning here he plays bass guitar, and that bass was delicious. So the delicious word is referred to the fish, and bass was quality of the guitar. Okay, so that means the showing these two. If I try to coin a word like he plays a bass guitar and that bass was delicious, then definitely artificial intelligence is required. He has to understand what is the object, and from that what type of word is to be coined. That is nothing but the lexicography. So seeing from an object what kind of interpretation should be understood or what kind of interpretation should be given, that is meaning of the lexicography. Similarly, this application is nothing but that. Suppose I have a question to my candidate who came for the interview. Now, the candidate should know that if the candidate is very expert, then he always understand what is the right answer to that question. Many of the time, questions is one thought, seeming that the answer should be that this way, but candidate give that the answer. So therefore, if the analytics works in backbone, we need not to give the marks. Analytics engine directly it will decide with the help of the brain computer interface that what kind of answer he has given and what should be the marks to be given. So the judgment of recruiting a best teacher or best faculty or uplifting a best student will be nothing but to be carried out by the augmented data analytics. Okay. So therefore, there are a lot of syntaxes there. So morphology, lexicography, and syntax. Syntax says that how do the words relate to each other. For example, that the dog bite the man is not equal to the man bit the dog. But in Russian, this kind of sentence we do. Okay. So here I am showing that they're not equal, but in the Russian it is equal. So that means every part of the word, a word has got meaning different. Okay. This is the meaning of the syntax. Or syntactically it should be correct. Then the second concept, fourth concept is semantics. Semantics is that how can we infer meaning from the sentences. For example, I saw the man on the hill with the telescope. The iPod is so small. The monitor is so small. So therefore, semantics will allow the user to infer the meaning of the sentence. Discourse, how about across many sentences? President Bush met with the President-elect Obama today at the White House. He welcomed him and showed him around. Now he, him, and this him, whom you refer. So this is the meaning of the discourse. Okay. So if I feed this thing to a computer and visualize the pattern, how should be there to mimic the whole talk, then definitely I have to take the route of the artificial intelligence or machine learning to understand. And then definitely, of course, this I am feeding the natural language processing. So who is he? Who is him? That's the thing only. How the computer figured that out? So this is the meaning of the discourse. So therefore, application of natural language processing, the machine translation, database access, information retrieval, text categorization, extracting the data from the text, spoken language control systems, spelling and grammar checkers. So these are the various applications of the natural language processing. One example I can refer here. For example, if you look at, I have written here in the sentence form, an emergency room in a hospital measures the variables, 15 variables, such as blood pressure, age, and so on, of the new admitted patients. Okay. In this case, a decision is to be taken as whether to put a new patient in an intensive care unit. Due to the high cost of ICU, those patients who may survive less than a month are given the higher priority. What is the problem of this? Now, if I fit this thing, you may have to find out what is the problem. Problem here is that to predict that high-risk patients and discriminate them from the low-risk patient. So this is the problem. So this kind of problem can be done by the data analytics with the natural language processing. Another application, if you look at, a credit card company receives thousands of applications from the new cards. Each application contains the information such as age, marital status, annual salary, outstanding credit rating, and so on. What is the problem here? Now I'm feeding this thing into and asking that the candidate, you design the problem. So problem has to be designed first. Problem is here to decide whether an application should be approved or not. To classify applications into two categories, either approved or not approved. So these are problems. So NLP or augmented data analytics can be a classification problem also, such as the approved or not approved. And these are the examples of data to be fed into that. So everywhere you see that the textual data is there. From there, we are required to do the classification. And the classification can be done. This is a learning task. Use the model to classify the future loan applications into either yes, that is approved, or no, but is not approved. So what is the class for the following case? So we can easily jot down all these things and then can find it out what is the class. So this particular thing, you may be knowing that there may be another task is that which we call the recommendation engine, because all these things I have already experienced in my earlier organizations, Mumbai and various countries and various institutes, including IITs. We referred to the recommendation engine, which is a very, very important concept. And today, you will be surprising that the two of my undergraduate students from Mumbai SNDT College, they have done the project with me, and they have come out that with the help of the TOPSIS is a recommendation engine, and with the help of the TensorFlow and amalgamation of the TOPSIS, they have come out to understand that whether the breast cancer patient is required chemotherapy or radiotherapy. We are interested to remove the chemotherapy part from the breast cancer diagnostic issues. So from that, today they have come out the recommendation engine by using the TOPSIS and the TensorFlow of the machine language, and they have come out with a very good result, and they found it out that what is the way of removing the chemotherapy and why we should remove that chemotherapy. Because you know that in many of the women, that the patients, they die because of the not able to take the chemotherapy load. It is not the question of radiation. So radiation comes after that. So if we can right from the very beginning, if we can deliver the right dose, the patient will be safe. So that part only I am trying to do, and I am in one complete society where I am guiding the lot many students, faculties for improving the breast cancer diagnostics. I am attached to the many hospitals in the West Bengal also. I have attached to the Tata Memorial Hospital, TMC what we call, located here at the Salt Lake area or Newtown area. And there are many hospitals who are attached with me for discovering this kind of issues. So in the natural language understanding, you see raw speech signals, speech recognition, sequence of words spoken, structure of the sentence, partial representation of meaning of sentence, and then final representation of the meaning of the sentence. Every part, it has got natural language understanding. For example, here speech recognition, here the syntactic analysis using the knowledge of the grammar. This is a semantic analysis, the pragmatic analysis. So there are huge research scope you are able to see for a computer scientist or for a student to build up their career. And again, you see that the input-output data can be frequency-based program, a word sentence like he loves Mary. Sentence structure can be given like this, which is the partial meaning, sentence meaning, so on thing. And then finally, if you fit into that, these are the tools like speech recognition, syntactic analysis, semantic analysis, pragmatics, you will be able to know that there is a lot many outcomes. So again, you see that a person is just dancing and his all these things are capturing, putting a record, and then frequency spectrogram is generated. The way we do that, our synthesizer. Speech recognitions can be done so that a lot of children, those who are not able to speak, we can give the speech therapy. And today, I think because of the augmented data analytics, speech therapy will be very much successful after some 1 or 2 years. Of course, I'm talking about from the point of the city like Mumbai and city like Delhi and Lucknow, but I do not know have any experience in the city like West Bengal, because just very 3 months back only I came here to settle after my retirement. So syntactic analysis, if you look at, there are rules of syntax specify the possible organization. You see that sentence, John saw Mary with the telescope. So you are syntactically, John saw Mary with a telescope. You can write also John within the bracket. We can write saw Mary with the telescope. So like this, you can put a lot of syntax in the grammatical format, and then computer will understand or pick up with the help of the artificial intelligence. Okay, here of course I can point it out. There is a technique called hill climbing or A-star algorithm. So these techniques can be utilized to pick out the actual syntax or actual grammar of the sentences. Okay, parsing. It is given a sentence and a grammar. You know that the checks that the sentence is correct according with the grammar, and it returns a parse tree representing the structure of the sentences. So it is basically parsing means the complete sentence will be decomposed into a different structure, branch and leaves, and then search engine can be developed from that to check the grammar. Fine. This is you see the sentence, you are having a noun phrase, verb phrase, and so on, all these things. So this is a technique. Until and unless you sit on the computer, this may not be useful to understand. You look at by various phrasing, you will understand what is the grammar is going on. Fine. So now we will come back to know that what is the machine learning technique. Okay. As you know, I will explain to you with a very simple way. What is the field of artificial intelligence? It is basically a field of artificial intelligence. Field of machine learning comes back, and then you have to know that they're deep learning. Today, many buzzwords are there. Deep learning. What you do if you ask a student, "I'm doing the deep learning." How deep your learning is? If you ask, then he will flat. So that's the point. So if you really know that the deep learning, you should know what is the deep learning. Okay. So coming back to the point that what is machine learning? Machine learning is nothing but the study of algorithms that improve their performance at some task with the experience. See, I have broken the sentence into this format because the topic is the augmented data analysis. Here I have exactly put a structural sentence in the tree form. Okay. Optimize a performance criteria using example data or past experience. There is a role of statistics which will infer the sample. And there will be, of course, the role of computer science. There may efficient algorithms have to develop. You solve the optimization problem. You represent and evaluate the model for inference. There are many growths of machine learning takes place. Is preferred approach to the speech recognition, computer vision, medical outcomes analysis, robot control, computational biology, and so on. This trend is basically accelerating with respect to the new sensors, IO devices, demand for self-customization to user, and so on. Okay. So therefore, earlier you know that the artificial intelligence, when you talk about, we had an expert system. We call that the rule-based expert system. We call that the knowledge-based expert system. I myself have is an artificial community man, AI community man, because I did my PhD under this platform, artificial intelligence. So after that, I myself absorbed into this community to develop many more algorithms in global world or in the web. I have many algorithms, and as you know that I am already a MATLAB developer, toolbox developer. So in the backbone, many algorithms have been contributed. I always have communicated with the MathWorks every time, and so many things can be possible to learn. Fine. There are major classes of learning algorithms. Is a machine learning, is a supervised, unsupervised, and reinforced. In the unsupervised mode is the exploratory data analysis. These are dynamic. Exploratory means you are exploring with respect to time. So that is where it's called the exploited data analysis. In the supervised the predictive analysis, it can be learning from the data. For example, that is a classification problem or regression problem. So if you have a classification and regression problems, you are doing the supervised learning. You are feeding some kind of trained data to be trained, and after the training module, that training module you are feeding with some testing data to get the what. But remember that whenever you do the training and testing, many people have a wrong understanding. Wrong in the sense that is, if I ask them that what is the difference between interpolation and the artificial neural network, answer is very, very shabby. Interpolation is also a non-linear, linear. So there we do not know. Interpolation, when you do, we have a physical relations exist between the data. But when you go for the artificial neural network, there is exactly no physical relation. So this is the only difference, nothing else. But the answer I have not found so far a correct answer. Okay, so please remember the students that difference between interpolation and ANN is nothing but this. Okay, then we have the unsupervised and reinforced learning. We will explain that what is that. There are see that a lot many related disciplines are there. If you see that the biological evaluation, control theory, game theory, information, philosophy, optimization, statistical mechanics, computational complexity, data mining, probability statistics, so neurophysiology. So machine learning has got huge scope in all respects. Okay. Now the question is, what is learning? What we do? Learning means every day we are learning something, but what is learning? Herbert Simon has mentioned that learning is any process by which system improves performance from the experience. So whenever you improve and you gather your experience, so that is the learning, nothing else. So learning, basically you are improving yourself. You are self-organizing. So therefore, self-organizing map is one of the component we call as a SOM in the artificial intelligence. Okay, what is the task? We have the task of classification, categorization and clustering, problem solving, planning and control, prediction, and others. Fine. There are varieties of machine learning: concept learning, clustering algorithms, connectionist algorithms, genetic algorithms, explanation-based learning, transformation-based learning, reinforced learning, case-based. Now you see that every learning is one of expertise there. Then you have a macro learning where you do a lot of assembly language macro processors. Evaluation functions, if under the Excel, Microsoft Excel, if you try to automate the whole tabulation or the spreadsheet, I need to design some macros. So it is a macro learning. So you will be surprising that the Excel can be programmed in such a way, if that toolbox you utilize, you will hardly to know that is it an Excel or it is a software package written in the high level language such as Java or C++ or any other. Okay. So evaluation functions, cognitive learning, architectures, constructive introduction, so on and so forth. And remember that in the learning, Bayesian learning, Voronoi-based learning, and fractal learning, these are the upcoming future. Okay. And I have an experience in all these domains, and a huge amount of experience is there, so that I can teach my students. I have already guided many students for this PhD into this domain. You see that the basket analysis is a non-component, is a probability of Y condition that X is there. So it is meaning that you have the probability of chips conditioning that party is there, which is a 0.7, taking the items in the different domain, and that this is the basket analysis we call. And we have a design of learning system. We have the environmental experience, learner is there. You have the knowledge, you have the performance element, and so on and so forth. Okay. Then we require to know that the data analytics in the statistics is required. In the statistics, we require correlation and regression. Of course, probability theory is a must. Without that, definitely you cannot proceed further. You require to know that the maximum likelihood, as I mentioned, that the Bayesian statistics, where you require to know that the maximum. A posteriori estimation is a very important for predictive analysis. Logistic regression, predictive analysis is required. Linear discriminant, principal component, system identification, time series, decision making, Markov chain. So idea is that if a teacher or if a faculty teaches the machine learning, one component of this topic should be included in the course. For example, Markov chain, Monte Carlo, nobody does. It is a postgraduate level teaching, but if we feed the seed of the undergraduate candidate can take up the subject at the MTech level. So that is the point. Here in the West Bengal, people are not in a position to come out with that higher part of that. So if IITs, of course, I am leaving aside the IIT and NITs, but if you really go from that every college, that Markov chain Monte Carlo, what is that? What exactly? Hidden Markov model, for example. Then we many position to understand that what is the technique used for the different purposes, especially for the business. Okay, MLE examples I will give. MLE with expectation maximization algorithm. Then all these things, MLE and EM, if I together, I got the MLEM, and you will surprise that MLEM is a tool which you generally apply in any radiotherapy machine like CT, MRI, any upcoming radiotherapy machine. This particular technique is there. So actually, the target can be contoured by using this kind of technique. I have a lot of exercise. My own papers are there where I adopted the ML technique and EM both together to a brain tissue. Until and unless you take the brain tissue the right, you cannot apply the radiotherapy because it's very sensing organ. If something happens, then the person will be mad. It cannot be treated further. He will be in a coma, and after some time, hardly 1 week or 4 days, he will die. So therefore, let us understood that what is maximum likelihood problem. This is a problem here very individually to understand at the student level. I have a lot of data. I have noted that the infected either by 1, and if it is not infected by 0. So this I have coded that the 10 candidates either infected or not infected. Okay, what is the probability of observation? So if it is infected, I call it as a P. If it is not, then I call it a 1 minus P. Okay, so like that, I have this P and 1 minus P. Then my second target is that what is the maximum likelihood? What this information, if I have, what I would like to do with the maximum likelihood? I would like to know that what is the value of P and all these things. So it is a discrete distribution. So write down the probability of each observation by using the model parameters. Okay. Then second step is that write down the probability of all the data. Okay. Third, you see that if I try to write down the probability, each and every case is independent. So as I know that they're mutually exclusive, that means they are statistically independent. So it is a product. How many P's are there? So 6 P's are there. So P multiplied by P multiplied by that 6 times, do the P to the power 6. Similarly, 1 minus P, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 minus P to the power 4. So this is my actual probability. So probability of occurrence of data, conditioning that my parameter is P. So that I noted down. Then I have to estimate the P. So that is why I find the value of the parameter that maximizes the probability. Fine. So whatever you got, this we call as a likelihood function. So I have to maximize it. Maximization, so it is a differential calculus. I have to differentiate that L with respect to the P. So what we do, we differentiate and maximize. I got the value of the P. I have shown the graph here. So the value of P is maybe coming at the peak is 0.6. So this kind of technique definitely can be done in case of our COVID-19 data to understand where the peak will come, and if that peak reaches with respect to the time, we'll know that when peak will come, and you will see the surprise result which I've analyzed just yesterday, that our peak is not coming at all. It will come in the month of July, and that complete flattening, it will dragging out to the month of October. So that means we have to survive with this virus up to the October. If the vaccine is not even there, that time again you have to survive maybe the 2021 in the month of up to the May or April or March, depending on the vaccine arrival. So that is the meaning of the data analytics can be done. It can be predictive analysis. So I have shown it here. So this is again problem. It is a game theory. It is a simple game I am taking. I have taken a thumb jack and theta I am calling it the probability of up. 1 minus theta is the probability of down. I have shown in the pictorially. My answer question is that how to determine the theta. So what I do, I exactly do the same kind of thing. I calculate what is the how many are total are 8, and up to that you see that the total 10. Up to 10, among the 10 there are 8 ups and 2 downs. So theta can be easily find it out that the 8 by 2 plus 8, 0.8. This particular thing can be done by the MLE in the general mode. So likelihood function, I can design theta to the power 8, which was the theta up, and 1 minus theta is a down 2. So theta to the power 8, 1 minus theta to the power square, that's the likelihood function. So these maximum likelihoods I have to do maximum. So I have to value of the theta. So this form of the arg max theta, theta to the power 8 of this. So if I do that, the differential with respect to the theta likelihood function, it will be arrivation. And then if you make 0, that's the principle of the differential calculus for maximization. So is equal to 0, theta equal to 1, theta equal to 0.8. So therefore, okay, so that the maximum likelihood is 0.8. Similarly, in general, we can do that, and you can do that. The theta estimation is n1 by n0 plus n1. Same way, as I mentioned that it is a knowledge discovery. Here you see the knowledge discovery. What you do, I generate a lot of data by counting experiment. Okay, decay of bacterial particles. We would like to know what is bacterial particle. So I know that the probability distribution, I coined it as an exponential transformation distribution, and then likelihood function is defined nothing but as product of that, because they are all mutually exclusive. Okay, so I have a likelihood function. Then I took the log of likelihood function because it's a nonlinear function. So I have to take the log. If I take the log, I will be transforming into this form. And then obviously, like previous, I took the differential with respect to the parameter tau. And if I do that and submit into an equal to 0, I get that what is the tau. Tau is nothing but the mean life. Here I was not knowing what is tau, but here I came to know by using this analysis is that this is called the data analytics. And all these things you will be designing in the form of a software. So user will not come to know. He will simply give that my probability is so and so. Give me the what is the tau. So answer will be the tau is a mean life, like that. So then there are some characteristics. You will know that when you go for the log likelihood, you need to know that, because when you design a software, you need to know each and everything. So that is why mathematics is one of the important component for developing a software. Okay. So you can say that the binomial data, this is my number of heads and number of tails, and then likelihood function can be designed. So we take the derivative, make it to 0, we will get that the theta is equal to this. Fine. So you will see that that NHNT, if it's the 3 and 2, directly will give. So in a software, you are feeding only the 3 and 2, but the answer is that automatically you are getting. But the backbone is nothing but the MLE. So there are many exponential distribution and all these things you can do. I need not to discuss all these things, because user required to know that what is ML for exponential distribution. Method is same, and then we can proceed for the uniform distribution. You can see that the ML for Gaussian. So you have to do all these calculations, and finally you will get the result of what is my variance of the DML, what is my mean of the DML for a Gaussian distribution. This is an important example. You look at in that example, what I am trying to do. I am trying to do some independent measurements by as a Z1 and Z2, some source that is a COVID patient at the location X, and the error obtained in the instruments used may be modeled as the probability distribution, as the normal distribution, where theta is my mean and sigma square is my variance. So our target is to determine the location X, that means position of the source, that means position of that COVID patient, where it is located, why it is located. If I found that the candidate is located at certain point, say CTX or the sub-city X, then definitely that place will be quarantined. That is the point only we are trying to do. So that kind of analysis can be done by maximum likelihood. And here I am trying to find it out likelihood function. This is my likelihood function. As I know, it is a normal distribution. So by using the normal distribution technique, I can design my likelihood function and then can proceed towards the log likelihood and can find it out where is my measurement. And with respect to my measurement, I can identify the location of the point. And this app only is designed in our mobile app for what is called the Aragya Setu and all these things. But that app was not properly designed. 100% guaranteed, not designed. It is giving very fanatic result. But this is the way actually one has to design. So the designer needs to knowledge the mathematics and statistics very, very depth. Okay. So again, the maximum likelihood function, it will give the result of the similar kind of thing. Same way, I can have the mixture model. So instead of 2 measurements, I can have various kinds of measurement. If I do that, okay, same procedure I can do as a likelihood function. And then finally, we can go to the information matrix design and you see here I have put the weight. So that means this particular measurement, since there are many, so we have a Z1 by sigma 1 square, Z2 by sigma 2 square, and the sigma 1 by sigma 1 square, 1 by sigma 2 square. So with respect to that, when I feed into these values, I will get the Z1 and Z2 into this. With respect to that, if I Z1 and Z2 is this, so I can get my estimation 138.0. So this is the ML estimate is closer to the more confident measurement. Fine, we can design the information matrix, because matrix operation is very useful or to deal very easy way. So information matrix can be designed from this angle, and then from the information matrix you can have the large covariance or small covariance you can define, where you can define the uncertainty. If there is a large covariance uncertainty, that is lack of information, which is generally happening in case of the COVID test. If it is a small covariance, strong information is there. So therefore, you can always say that our data, whatever we are reporting, is not the correct data. We are reporting the wrong data. Okay. So therefore, this measurement is there, and from there we can estimate that. And you see that pictorially how a graph looks like. So therefore, if we have this is my likelihood function, and with respect to that, we can easily find it out that. So this is one set of learning. We have a Bayesian learning. Now Bayesian learning is nothing but something has happened in your house. You do not know. Okay, you had gone to some other place and some thief has occurred, some dacoit has occurred. Okay, somebody has stolen something. How do you know? You simply lodge an FIR. Police will come, inspect, and then carry out their research by inquiring, by interviewing so many areas, and then they will find it out. So what backbone is learning? It is nothing but the Bayesian learning. They are learning the systems, trial and error by interviewing, fact finding by interview. This is one point is designed in the artificial intelligence. You are trying to find it out the fact by interviewing. Okay, so therefore this is the area where the Bayesian learning can be done. Is the Bayes rule, very simple, can be taught in the class. If you look at the number of cases in which A occurs, B occurs, and A and B both, and then by simply actions of probability law, we can design that what is the probability of A plus B. If you continue the definition, you will see that the probability of occurrence is nothing but design can be there. Similarly, can be design. If I join both the things together, I have a Bayes rule. In the word Bayes rule says it is a posterior probability. That means probability of occurrence of A, condition that B occurs, can be designed a likelihood function multiplied by the prior. Initially, I do not know that the prior. Likelihood will come from my data, which captures by fact finding, and prior I do not know. Prior I will guess and feed into that, and then that guess I can improve by a learning, and therefore it is called as the Bayesian learning. So the complete Bayesian statistics is known as the learning, and if that learning can be dynamically framed into the time domain, it is called as a Markov chain Monte Carlo, MCMC. And if I try to do in a better way, we call that the Kalman filter, we call it the particle filter, and so many other things are there. There is a huge amount of this thing. A lot of research goes. So map estimation can be done into this way. So whatever the Bayesian learning is there, Bayesian learning imparts the map estimation, that is the maximum a posteriori estimation. Here what we do is the posterior probability, which we call the belief, that can be designed as a likelihood and prior that I designed already. So the learner is my Bayesian learning. How do we know? We know that all these things need not to explain here. So that means we are trying to do this particular thing to be computed by using this formulation. So the mu of map is nothing but the argument maximum of the probability of mu x. So when you do that, you try to basically, this is a probability, assuming that is a pure probability. So px of equal to 1. So therefore argument of this numerator is sufficient to me. So this is my Bayes rule says. So let us coin a problem here. So when you do the argmax, as you know that we have to take the log of that. So log of that means it is a multiplication of that. So automatically if I take with the product, I get a summation. Because in the product, if I take log, I will get the summation. So it is a summation rule. Okay. So therefore, how to utilize that? So utilization is the probability of hypothesis, provided your data is there. Probability of that. This is a very good example. For example, that I have given you a blood sample, asking you that can you identify the blood is the dog or from human? How do you do that? Do not know. So Bayesian learning you have to apply to understand is the blood from the dog. or this is the blood really from the human. Otherwise, there will miss it. Okay, so please note down that. So therefore, Bayesian learning is giving you the belief. So there is a geometric distribution. This is a geometric distribution, and this is the, we can write this distribution as this form because you have of y, condition that x is parameter form, and object to understand or to find out the map estimate of x given that y equal to 3. So you understand the p of x versus y that is given by the bias rule by this, and you substitute this here where the prior I took the হ্যাঁ আমার দেখতে চার্জ চলে গেছে কিনা নেট তো আছে এনিওয়ে হ্যাঁ ওকে just see that the is it coming all right okay
hello
hello
yes Dr. Datta, we are listening to you.
Is it coming now?
Yeah
Okay, so so that was the reason actually that we were trying to understand that this problem. So here you see that this is my prior distribution, and
so you have to share your screen.
Yeah,
you have to again share your screen.
But
yeah
okay, so just wait.
You open the presentation, you can then click the share screen.
I open the presentation and
then click the share screen at the bottom of your screen. Click the share screen.
I have shared this. I have
and again click
the share screen.
And again click your presentation. And again click your presentation.
I click. Is it now coming? Yeah. Is it coming?
No, it is
Hello?
not. It is not coming.
It's not coming. So I shared this one. Is a Zoom only? No? Okay.
Right, sir. In fact,
So,
if you want to conclude, it is not coming, but you can conclude your presentation,
okay.
sir.
I can conclude that.
Yeah.
So, whatever I showed you, that it is nothing but the augmented data analytics. First of all, we discussed about the data analytics, what is that big data and all these things, and then we showed this how the NLP can be feedback, what are the different types of NLP can be designed, and what are the different types of data analytics can be there, and then machine learning, how it can be learned. As I showed that the Bayesian learning is one of the machine learning, maximum likelihood estimation can be done, and in the Bayesian learning, which I wanted to show that when people try to find out what is the prior function, remember that the prior function should be the conjugate of the likelihood function. Likelihood comes from the data, which is maybe the normal, and then prior should be the normal. All conjugate functions of the likelihood should be utilized. That's all. If it is a likelihood function is a binomial, then conjugate function can be the beta. On the other way also, if the likelihood function is a beta, conjugate function can be binomial. Like that only, learning can be there. You can do for the clustering. In the clustering, you can segment it the groups in the classification. So these are the various kinds of route you can apply, and if you can apply the time frame data, we can have a model like ARIMA, Kalman filter. All this modeling can be done for the machine learning, and all these machine learning outcomes can be reposited to a NLP platform to translate the data in a common language. That's all my conclusion of this kind of talk. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.
Excellent, sir. In fact, you might be seeing the chats, and you might be seeing the remarks. The participants are writing that it's a very, very informative session, and most of them would want to write to you. So I have shared your email ID with them. May I again repeat? It is you can sir repeat your email ID to them.
My Gmail ID is dbrt.datta@gmail.com.
Right, I have shared that.
Is it clear now?
Yeah, it is clear. And in fact, most of them are writing that it was such a hugely informative presentation. And like much of that big data, your presentation was also a big lecture. So there is a huge request now from everybody that you have to now put it into small proportions. And NLP part was very interesting, because NLP part, as you know, that it is not part of our curriculum, right? In your masters in particular, or even UG. So NLP thing, they would want to know more. And there has been a question for you, for people
Sure.
who are into commerce and business, that they are not pursuing
Yeah,
computer
sure.
science per se. So
Yeah.
can they undertake learning in augmented space, augmented data
Yeah,
analytics?
yeah, of course. Why not? Why not? They are always encouraged. They are always encouraged. They can learn very well because you know that the commerce students are much more machine learning expert rather than a science student because
Right,
they are
right,
handling the real data.
right,
In the
right,
real
right.
data analysis, that the commerce people are most welcome.
Right, right. And this is this technical question for you, and
Right.
I have not understood it, but I think you can answer. The
Hmm.
question is like this: why do we need a cloud composite for statutory relationship with the interluded database software?
Yeah. So the question is very important because you know that when we are having a shortage of the data, a shortage of the space basically in the form of the hard disk or in the form of the what do you call. Now the question is that the data is not stored in the sequential manner. Data is stored in the random manner. In the random also there are some stratification takes place. So this stratification takes place is very elaborate way in the form of a cloud. That means what we try to do, we segment the data in the various clusters, and these clusters have got certain kind of link and put back into the cloud. So the complete cloud, you can say that you are having a repository of database, and as the cloud moves or the data moves, so interlink between the two data, big data or two data sets can be carried out by possible in the cloud. May not be possible in the hard disk static storage.
Right, sir.
Understand is the dynamic database. When we talk about the database, we are understanding that the dynamic database. That's all.
Right, sir.
Hope I
So
am able to clear your pain.
yes, I think they will be writing to you for this, and
Yeah,
most of
sure,
them
sure.
were very impressed with your presentation and figuring it out that how best
Thank you very much. Thank
how
you very
how they
much.
can have a copy of your presentation. So I've told them to be in touch with you, and
Yeah,
there has
sure,
been
sure.
some suggestions based on your
Right,
presentation today that they would
right.
want a longer format workshop with you, and they would
Yeah.
not mind even paying for this workshop because enough of those Udemy's and Coursera's and those
Yeah,
e-learning,
that's the thing I
that
was
doesn't work.
explaining actually.
That doesn't work.
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is basically this kind of a presentation which
Yeah,
comes through hands-on rich experience which you had, and
yeah, yeah.
for me also it was a great learning, and I would want to personally be in touch with you to advance my
Sure,
learning in this
definitely.
space.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
So I have
Really.
told these participants, I'm telling you right now that sir and
Yeah.
we will be very happy to design some graded learning workshops for all of you, and we can let you know on that. And there have been too many questions, but as you have our email IDs, please write to us, and let us wait for our next workshop. And on behalf of the house, there have been a lot of international participants also, I could figure it out. On behalf of all the participants, let me extend my thanks and my regards to Professor Datta. And Professor Datta, this was just a kind of an eye-opener for us. There is
Yeah.
enough of augmented data analytics, enough of
Yeah,
data
yeah. Enough,
science
enough.
people are talking about, but you have
Yeah.
made it in such a structured way that people are now very, very interested to pursue this.
Yeah.
Finally, sir, before we part, what will be your
Right.
advice to students, final year students in particular, or students who are a little disillusioned with the pandemic, and what skills they would want to pick up from the bouquet which you have just discussed? And those seems to be a little hard for layperson, and they are a little scared that whether probably they can pick up machine learning or AI or go for deep learning or augmented. So what will be your advice to the students in particular or practitioners to advance their skills? I mean, what all they should do? What can be your 3 recommendations for them, maybe for these 3 months, which probably they can pursue?
My recommendation will be that the three recommendations I can give. One group of the people, one group of the students, they can apply their statistics knowledge to nurture the data, to understand what is the technique for forecasting the spread. Second recommendation is that they can understand that the epidemiology as a data analysis technique, because modern epidemiology of the infectious disease is not being touched by anybody. In the TV or media, you see that the epidemiologists people are seeing and chatting, but giving the wrong recommendation, because that they are not coming to the point of the actual fact. So one group of the students can club together to nurture all the models available, and then develop a new model for applied to our country or applied to our state. Okay, as you know that our state will not have the uniform peak, right? Our country will not have a uniform peak. West Bengal having the peak arrival at some month of times July. Delhi will be in the month of the August. Mumbai may be the month of the August end. So every part of our country, India, have a different arrival of the peak, so that administrations from the political side will be different. So the lockdown condition will be different. So one group of the people definitely can understand that what is the impact of this lockdown in the business, at least in our West Bengal. So this is a very good research, very good learning lesson. Impact of lockdown or unlock 1.0, 2.0, whatever is there in our business. We have lockdown, we have implemented, but we have never stopped our cases to stop. Cases are go on increasing, as well as lockdown is also changing from 4.0 to 5.0, maybe that is 6.0 or so on. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So as we end with a very positive note that in spite of this crisis, which has given to us lot many problems, but with every problem we have an opportunity, and data science in particular will give us a lot of keys to unlock most of the problems we have. Thank you so much, Dr. Datta. Thank you so much, participants. And I promise you, on behalf of Dr. Datta, that we will surely meet pretty soon with your, as per the way you have suggested, to do more workshops with Dr. Datta in this augmented data analytics, NLP, and data analytics in particular. Thank you so much once again. Looking forward to be with you in the near future. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr. Datta.
Welcome.